Every time you cash your paycheck, you aren't actually getting paid. You're simply making a payment on the debt of your own existence. It is a harsh way to look at it, but think about the math of your life for a moment. If you stopped working tomorrow, how long would your current success actually last? For most of us, the answer is a matter of weeks, maybe months, before the walls start closing in. We have been sold a version of the American dream that is actually a sophisticated subscription model where the monthly fee is your sanity, your time, and your potential. You aren't earning a living. You are leasing your freedom from a system that requires you to stay tired, stay hungry, and stay dependent on the next 2 weeks of labor. We sit in our cars before the shift starts, staring at the dashboard, feeling that quiet, vibrating anxiety, not because we are lazy, but because we subconsciously realize that we are running on a treadmill that has no off switch. We've done everything we were told to do, yet we feel like we're drowning in a pool that's only 3 feet deep. The misunderstanding starts with the word income. Most of us were raised to believe that a higher income is the ultimate shield against stress. We think that if we can just cross that next 6-figure threshold or get that 20% bump, the pressure will finally evaporate. But have you noticed that the pressure doesn't leave? It just changes shape. This is what Warren Buffett recognized decades ago. Most people are stuck in a cycle of trading life for paper and then immediately trading that paper for things that require more life to maintain. It is a biological and financial trap. We have normalized the idea that struggling to make ends meet is a personal failure of budgeting rather than a systemic result of how we view money. We've been taught to be good workers but never taught to be owners. The system doesn't want you to be an owner. It wants you to be a high-functioning consumer who is just comfortable enough to keep working, but just broke enough to never walk away. Let's look at Mike. Mike is the personification of the paycheck trap on paper. Mike is a hero. He's the guy who got the promotion, the guy with the corner office, the guy whose LinkedIn profile makes people envious. When Mike got his first big raise to $100,000 a year, he didn't feel richer. He felt validated. And that validation came with a cost. He bought the house in the right neighborhood, which came with a mortgage that requires 40% of his take-home pay. He bought the German SUV because it's a safety investment for the family, but really it's a $900 monthly reminder that he cannot afford to lose his job. Mike's life is a series of upgrades that have effectively handcuffed him to his desk. He spends his weekends doing stress relief activities that cost money, expensive dinners, high-end hobbies, because his weekdays are so draining. He is caught in a loop where he works to pay for the things that help him forget he has to work to the world. Mike is thriving, but inside his own mind, he is one bad quarterly review away from a total collapse. Then there is Sarah. Sarah started in the same office as Mike, with the same salary and the same opportunities, but Sarah had a different internal compass. When she got that same $100,000 raise, she didn't view it as an invitation to buy a bigger life. She viewed it as seed capital. While Mike was picking out leather interiors for his new car, Sarah was looking at her bank account and asking, "How many days of my life can I buy back with this?" She kept her reliable, slightly beat-up hatchback. She stayed in her modest apartment for 3 extra years. Her friends and Mike silently wondered if she was struggling because her external life didn't match her internal income. But Sarah wasn't struggling. She was building a fortress. She took the logic Buffett often preaches. She looked for productive assets every month. She sent a portion of her paycheck into things that didn't require her to show up for them to grow. She wasn't looking for a get-rich-quick scheme. She was looking for a get-free-forever strategy. By year 5, the divergence between Mike and Sarah became a chasm of psychology. Mike was promoted again, but he was also more irritable, more prone to burnout, and increasingly worried about keeping up. His expenses had risen at the exact same rate as his income, a phenomenon known as lifestyle creep. He had no margin. If Mike wanted to take a month off to be with his family or explore a new career path, he literally couldn't. The paycheck trap had closed its jaws. Sarah, however, had reached a tipping point. Her investments, those little soldiers she had been sending out to work for her, were now generating enough to cover her basic rent. She didn't quit her job, but the way she did her job changed. She was no longer afraid of her boss. She could speak her mind, take risks, and set boundaries because her survival wasn't tied to that specific desk. Sarah had bought back her own agency. If you're finding this breakdown of Mike and Sarah's paths helpful, I'd love it if you'd hit the like button and subscribe. These concepts are simple, but the social pressure to be a Mike is intense. And sharing this helps reach people who need to know there's another way. What's one upgrade you've passed on recently to save your own freedom? Let me know in the comments. The turning point for Sarah, and for anyone who breaks this cycle, is a fundamental shift in how you define wealth. Most people define wealth as the ability to spend. Buffett defines wealth as the ability to not have to work. When you connect money to psychology, you realize that every dollar you save isn't a sacrifice of a current pleasure. It is a purchase of a future moment of peace. The paycheck trap relies on you staying focused on the immediate hit of dopamine that comes from a new purchase. It relies on you being so tired that you don't have the energy to do the math. But once you realize that your luxury SUV is actually costing you 2 extra years of mandatory labor at a job you dislike, the SUV starts to look a lot less like a status symbol and a lot more like a prison cell. This realization changes everything. It changes how you negotiate, how you spend, and how you sleep at night. We have to understand that our brains are wired for the now, but our freedom is built in the later. Psychology tells us that we are remarkably bad at predicting how much joy a new object will bring us after the first 2 weeks. We overestimate the happiness of a lifestyle upgrade and underestimate the soul-crushing weight of a lifestyle obligation. Mike is not a bad person. He is just a person who followed the standard operating procedure of our culture. He is doing what he was told would make him happy. Sarah isn't a genius. She is just someone who decided that peace of mind was a more valuable luxury than prestige. This isn't about hustle culture or working 20 hours a day. It is about being a better steward of the hours you already work. It is about ensuring that the energy you expend today doesn't just evaporate, but is stored in a way that serves you tomorrow. So how do you practically start acting like Sarah when you feel like you're already stuck in Mike's life? You don't need $1 million to start. You need a Liberty Fund. This is different from an emergency fund. An emergency fund is for when the car breaks. A Liberty Fund is for when you decide you want a different life. Start by capping your lifestyle. Decide that for the next 2 years, no matter how much your income grows, your expenses will stay exactly where they are. This is the single most powerful financial move you can make. When you get that next raise, or that tax refund, or that side hustle money, it doesn't go toward a better TV. It goes toward your freedom floor. This is the realistic, non-extreme way to build a life you don't need a vacation from. You aren't depriving yourself, you're aggressively courting your own future independence. Another takeaway is to change your unit of measurement. Stop measuring prices in dollars and start measuring them in hours of life. If you earn $30 an hour after taxes and you want to buy a $1,200 phone, that phone doesn't cost $2,200. It costs 40 hours of your life. Is that phone worth a full week of sitting in meetings, dealing with emails, and missing dinner with your family? Sometimes the answer is yes, and that's fine. But more often than not, when you see the life cost of your purchases, the paycheck trap begins to lose its luster. You start to realize that stuff is a very poor trade for time. Buffett's logic isn't about being a miser. It's about being a master of your own timeline. He lives simply so that he can think deeply and act freely. You can do the same on your own scale. Finally, you have to find a community or a mindset that supports this. The world is designed to make you feel like Mike. Every advertisement, every social media post, and every successful peer is a nudge to spend more, do more, and be more. Breaking free requires a certain level of quiet rebellion. It requires being okay with people thinking you're boring while you're actually becoming bulletproof. Sarah's peace didn't come from her bank balance alone. It came from the fact that she stopped playing a game she didn't want to win. When you stop competing for the best lifestyle and start competing for the most freedom, the anxiety starts to lift. You realize that you have enough, you are enough, and the system no longer has a hook in you. The goal here isn't to become a billionaire. The goal is to reach a point where your work is a choice, not a requirement for survival. It is about moving from a state of financial fragility to a state of financial resilience. When you follow the logic of ownership, you're essentially building a bridge out of the trap, one brick at a time. It might take years, but every brick you lay makes the bridge stronger and the trap weaker. You deserve a life where you aren't staring at the steering wheel in dread. You deserve a life where your paycheck is a tool for your dreams, not a leash for your nightmares. Start small, stay consistent, and remember that every dollar you don't spend on the trap is a dollar that is working to set you free. As you move forward, keep the image of Sarah's freedom floor in your mind. It's not about perfection, it's about direction. If you're currently 100% dependent on your next paycheck, aim to be 90% dependent by next year. That 10% gap is where your dignity lives. That 10% is where your ability to say no begins. And once you taste that first bit of freedom, you'll realize that no luxury car or designer bag can ever compete with the feeling of owning your own time. The systems around us may be designed to keep us in the trap, but the exit door is always there. It's just labeled ownership. Walk through it. You've worked hard enough for everyone else. It's time to start working for yourself. The final realization is that the paycheck trap is as much a mental state as it is a financial one. When Mike looks at his life, he sees a series of obligations he has to fulfill. When Sarah looks at her life, she sees a series of opportunities she can pursue. This shift from I have to I get to is the ultimate return on investment. It's what Buffett means when he talks about the power of compounding, not just money, but compounding autonomy. Your life is not a series of bills to be paid. It is a finite amount of time to be experienced. By reclaiming your paycheck, you're reclaiming your life. It starts with the very next dollar that passes through your hands. Decide right now, will that dollar be a payment to the trap or a payment to your freedom? The choice for the first time is truly yours.